Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we discuss day-to-day problems people face in their lives. Let's start with the video. My wife and I have been married for over 3 years. She's a charming, kind, and unique person. She's caring, loving, and overall just a fascinating woman. She works in the healthcare system and provides help whenever it is asked for or required. And being rude has never been something my wife is known for. It has never been a trait that she's thrived in owning. She barely even stood up for herself or confronted anyone when it came to something that concerned her, unless it made sure something was right and justice was a result of it. I, on the other hand, am quite frankly the family guy. I'm very close to my wife's family with my family, and my relationship with my wife could not have been more perfect. We both made it a point to get involved in each other's families and stay close to them as much as possible, as we both care and love our family's godly degree. I'm close with her as she's close with mine. That's always been the deal, and that's something we've always owned up to equally. Recently, though, I've noticed that has been getting plagiarized. I've grown quite distant with her family, despite me not doing anything to provoke it. And I've been getting complaints from my mother telling me that my wife's attitude has changed towards her. Honestly, that would have been left that I would have pulled away from my wife's family if they didn't want to be with me. And I would have calmed my mother down because I knew that my relationship with my wife was very healthy and very sane. Until she told me that my wife has been messaging her and being rude to her even more recently. Apparently, she was straight up witching about my relationship with my mother to her. My wife has been asking my mother, my very own mother, to stop contacting me and asking me to spend time with her. My wife told my mom that she didn't want me to be involved with my family because they were rejecting and hurting me. And she only wanted me to hang around with her family, which isn't true because they've been pulling away from me. I didn't really know to what extent I wanted to trust my mother's words. I didn't even know if I could believe them. Under normal circumstances, I obviously would have believed my mother in the blink of an eye. I would trust her with my whole world. So if she told me something, it could only be that. Only my mother's health has been quite uncomfortable. She's been staying at home all the time, and she basically has nothing to do around the house, which led me to spend more time with her and make sure she was all right because my father is deceased, and she lives alone in the house. On one hand, it could be just her trying to get me to spend more time with her because she thinks she could be in critical conditions or dying, which isn't true. After all, the doctors have denied it over and over again, telling her that her health will eventually get better, and it's only a matter of time. And on the other hand, it could be true that my wife doesn't want me to spend too much time with my mom to make me stick around, and perhaps that could even explain why her family has been enraged at me. It could be that they have been getting offended that I'm spending more time with my mother than I am with them. This is irrational considering that my mom's sick and my mother, which makes her closer to me than they are. Either way, this was taking up my ease of mind quite a lot. And I needed to get to the end of it before making a deduction that would ruin my marriage or my relationship with my mother. I downloaded a spy application on my mother and my wife's phones. I needed to make sure I would get both ends of the story and confirm whether my mother's words were true or not. My mother was very gracious in giving me her phone. She offered to keep me updated all the time about all the conversations, and she absolutely had nothing to hide. On the other hand, my wife wasn't informed that I was doing this because in this scenario, she was the culprit. What I found on her phone was something far worse than I could have imagined. Something worse than her picking problems with my mother and witching about her health. Something even far worse than her trying to break apart my relationship with my mother for the sake of hers. I found my wife exchanging explicit messages and promises of meetings and sexual favors with my best man. Yes, the best friend that I've made sure to only ask to stay with my wife when I wasn't around. The only person I entrusted to remain in the same household overnight with her when I was caring for my sick mother. I talked to my mother again when I checked the app from her end. She explained to me with a saddened face that she knew the conclusions I had come to. She could notice the sad attitude in my tone of speech, and she apologized for making me go through it. When I asked her what she meant, she told me that she knew my wife was cheating on me with my best man. When my wife had visited her and assumed her to be immobile, my wife left her phone next to her. She received messages from my best man, which led my mother to find out about their secret affair. That's why she asked me to do something that would infuse suspicion and make me download a spy app on my wife's phone, so I would find out the truth for myself with my own eyes. I filed for divorce the very next day. I learned the lesson of always listening to my mother because I knew, deep down, that there was nobody that loved me and cared for me and my emotions the way my mother did. Quite honestly, I don't think I will ever be able to trust people the same again, because my relationship with my wife was rather perfect. Or so I thought it was at the time when she was having an affair with the person I considered closest to me in the world. I don't think I will ever recover from this, and I understand how toxic it was for me to download a spying app on my wife's phone without notifying her or asking for permission. But had I not downloaded that spy app, God knows where things would have ended up. Not the a-hole. Your wife is a terrible person to cheat on you with your best man, and you need to be careful who to call your friends, let alone the best of them. You got out of this thanks to your mother's suspicions and advice, and you need to keep in mind that you have to be extremely careful with the people you involve in your life. Just because you've chosen a person to trust does not mean they will remain trustworthy for the rest of their lives. Not the a-hole. I think your wife cheating on you with your best man is possibly the worst thing she could have ever done and the only unforgivable thing which could result in divorce. But quite honestly, I don't understand why you felt the need to spy on her just because your mother said she was witching about it. You could have chosen the confrontational way and been honest with your wife and asked her if she had been speaking to your mother and telling her to stop talking to you. There were other ways in which you could have chosen to handle the situation that you were indeed aware of, but you agreed to the most toxic and manipulative one. There was a lot of distrust going around. Just you stating that you had a healthy relationship with your wife didn't sell it to me at all. And although your mother probably saved your ace by asking you to download that spy app, things could have spiraled into something terrible had this exact situation not been the way it was. Definitely not the a-hole here. Not the a-hole. Your mom was very sneaky in the way she handled it. I love how she knows you so very much that she knows exactly what to infuse in you to trigger what reaction out of you. But at the same time, it's quite toxic and unhealthy of treating you and trying to alarm you about something dangerous. And it's a very manipulative way to handle something that should have been confrontational. Although your mom is very smart and your wife is a terrible person, and your best man is even worse, you need to rely on yourself when detecting the people that are trying to harm you and stab you in the back. Best of luck, and be careful who to call your friends, and most importantly, who you call your best of them and sometimes even your significant others. Maybe it's for the best that this situation slapped you in the face so hard and made you lose trust in people. You seem to have been far too trusting and blindsided. Next story. For starters, I absolutely adore my wife. She's my rock and has been an infallible beacon of light for me this year. I lost my job at the beginning of the year, and when things got tough, she buckled up, got a part-time job to help us stay afloat, and didn't have a single negative thing to say about it all. I finally got back on my feet again and wanted to do something nice for my wife once things settled down. She's a classic girly girl and loves to dress up, go out, etc. We really cut back this year, so when our finances felt stable, I wanted to splurge on something special for her. I bought her a diamond necklace, nothing too extravagant. We just got out of financial straits. I'm not turning around and blowing money I don't have. It's a single solitaire diamond that, in my opinion, was classy and elegant, but something she could wear on the daily. Cue to Thanksgiving dinner, and my wife wears the necklace to dinner. Her sister-in-law, her brother's wife, I'll call her Mary, notices the ring and compliments my wife on it. My wife happily tells her how it was a surprise, and Mary agrees that it was a super sweet sentiment, compliments me on my choice, and overall the family thought it was a nice gift, especially knowing that we went through hard times. A few days after dinner, I received a text from the brother-in-law calling me an a-hole for using Thanksgiving dinner to show off and make it all about me. He said that I shouldn't have let my wife wear such flashy jewelry to dinner and upstage everyone else, and that it was super selfish and conceited of us. I was stunned, to be honest, because the necklace discussion only lasted several minutes, maybe 5, 10, and the rest of the family only had nice things to say about it. They seemed genuinely happy for me and my wife. I'm starting to feel like an a-hole because it's true that the family isn't incredibly well off, and something like my wife's necklace would be seen as something very luxurious. My brother says that I'm now putting pressure on him to get his wife something extravagant for Christmas. On the other hand, though, I don't feel like it's really my responsibility to care about how brother-in-law feels about a gift I got for my wife, and that if he feels pressure, it's not on me. I don't know, was I the a-hole for talking about the gift during dinner? Not the a-hole. A lovely gift got lovely compliments at a recent gathering. You didn't roll into dinner with a big sign saying, "Hey, look at my wife's neck." Odds are, brother-in-law's wife has been after him before about giving crappy gifts, and her compliments about your wife's necklace were really aimed at him. Now he's mad because he'll actually have to get her something decent this Christmas. Brother-in-law is nuts. I'm not expecting a Porsche for Christmas because my sister-in-law just got one from her husband. You sound like a great couple. She worked harder when money was tight, and you showed her your appreciation with a surprise gift because she's a wonderful wife. This is merely your brother-in-law's insecurity coming through. Your wife was wearing the necklace because she appreciated and liked the gift, not to show off. Ignore his comments regarding this situation. You really have nothing to feel guilty about. Clearly, you're the a-hole. How could you not have foresight and buy a diamond necklace for everyone that may see your wife's, like it, and not be able to afford it themselves? If you buy nice jewelry, the rule of thumb is buy at least 15 more to carry in your pockets in case someone else thinks it's nice and can't afford it. Why do you think rappers walk around with so many watches on? Nope, it's a simple piece and she may choose to wear it daily, as you mentioned. This isn't some huge collar type thing dripping with jewels the queen would wear. Is OP's wife supposed to take off her jewelry just for brother-in-law? Maybe brother-in-law should ask wife if she likes diamonds. Lots of women don't. And if she does, he can discuss whether she'd like him to buy something within his current budget or save up for something more like what she saw on OP. Update. Thank you to everyone for giving me the confidence to move forward with the situation. There were a few questions in my last post regarding how my wife, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law were involved in the situation that I wanted to shed some light on. Unfortunately, the outcome isn't the best. The first thing I wanted to clear up is that brother-in-law is in fact my wife's brother. Secondly, the allow comment regarding my wife's choice in dress was from my brother-in-law. I have no interest or power in dictating what my wife chooses to wear, regardless of the occasion. Thirdly, while I won't reveal the cost of the necklace, I can assure everyone that it was in a reasonable price range that definitely wouldn't turn heads if worn out running errands, but was still simple enough to my wife and myself. I initially wanted to keep the text messages from my wife in fear that it would sour the sentiment behind the necklace, but we're not the type of people to keep secrets from each other. When she read the texts, she was livid. I've never seen her so upset, especially at family. She immediately called her brother and just reamed him out of his insensitivity. We were on the phone together, but I didn't really pipe up once they started arguing since I felt like they should work it out as siblings. They got in a long argument, and her brother said he was worried that she was going down a slippery slope of becoming a superficial witch, and that we shouldn't force our financial success on other people. That comment honestly shocked the both of us, because while they weren't close growing up, he's never talked to her like that before. At that point, my wife told her brother that if he wasn't going to be happy for her, that she had one thoughtful treat from her husband after a really crappy year, then she had nothing to say to him. A few years later, my wife did get a text from my sister-in-law. Apparently, she also heard the conversation and was mortified. She at least reassured us that she was happy for our success after working so hard and that she'd try to talk some sense into her husband, brother-in-law. Regardless, my wife and I decided to spend Christmas without brother-in-law and his wife. We'll be doing it separately on Christmas Eve with her parents. At this point, there's just too much tension, and I don't want to risk brother-in-law ruining Christmas because I wouldn't put it past him to find the gifts we get her family too luxurious and pitching a fit in response. Her parents are staying out of the situation for the time being, but okay with meeting us separately, and I respect their decision. And this might make me an a-hole, but I'm going to take some advice from a few commenters and get my wife a nice matching bracelet for Christmas. Next story. I, 21 female, applied for a home loan to purchase my first investment home. My boyfriend, 21 male, and I have been dating for about a year. Today I decided to apply for a home loan as my father said he'd put down the down payment for me and I'd proceed with the mortgage. I was very excited to inform my boyfriend of this opportunity. Once I told him, he was very mad, saying that I hadn't consulted him and how it should be about helping each other grow and be successful. The thing is, I didn't plan on purchasing the home with him, as we aren't even married, and my father is putting down a very large down payment. I didn't think it'd be fair for me to just let him tag along as it's basically my father's money that he's allowing me to invest. I feel very bad and see where he's coming from, but I definitely know he won't put in half the amount of money or energy that I'll be putting into the home. As well as seeing as we haven't been together for a long time, I'm scared of what may happen if we were to break up if we got into it together. I'm calling it an investment as I plan to repair some of the damage of the home and rent it. As a little backstory, my boyfriend and I have previously spoken about purchasing a home together, as well as we've talked about marriage and kids and are fully committed to each other. I do understand how he might feel betrayed, but it's something I want to have on my own and have it as a source of income. Edit. I should probably add that the house I'm purchasing will not be where my boyfriend and I will be living. The property is for investment purposes, so I can have another source of income while I'm still in school. As well as, I don't plan on him pitching in even a cent of his own money towards the mortgage or renovations. Not the a-hole. Keep your finances separate. When he can come with half of that down payment, then he can be included in your financial decisions. I would even encourage you to keep them separate if you get married, with maybe a joint account that you each contribute to individually. Money is one of the top causes of relationship conflict, if not the top cause. Look out for yourself. His attitude about it is a red flag. Not the a-hole. You're so smart to be looking into an investment property at your tender age. I wish I had done so way back then. There is no way I would include your boyfriend in this business endeavor. Tell him it is an investment with your father because it is essentially, right? There isn't an option for him to join in this one at this time. If he wants to buy something too, you can both begin to save the down payment for that one and rent it out too. I would encourage him to begin putting aside all that he can to possibly invest in something together. But buying the home separately is the smartest thing you can do. That doesn't mean you can't buy something together down the road. And please keep this one separate even if you do end up married to this guy. My father helped me hang on to my current home when I divorced. He paid my ex off for his half. I began immediately paying my father back what he lent me to buy my ex out. I eventually paid him back. I'm now selling that home and there is enough equity to pay cash for my next home. I'm retired and want a smaller single-story place. If my father had not helped me many years ago, this wouldn't be a possibility for me. I really applaud you for getting into real estate so young. If your boyfriend cannot save enough for a nicer place for the two of you to live in, look into buying a small vacation home together and keep it rented out. I have friends that did that. They purchased a fixer-upper small cabin. They did all the construction repair work themselves and furnished it with pieces purchased at yard sales that they refurbished. It was an adorable cabin in our local mountains and they spent every weekend working on it. Eventually, they got married and sold the cabin to use as a down on their first home.